Hello, everyone, and welcome back for a new episode of Across the Pond Aces. Guess what? We're in the playoffs, and we just won our second game of the first round. You know what that means? We're on to the next round. So we kind of called that because we had said if we were playing Chicago, we knew it wasn't going to be as hard. But we're on to the next round. We're going to talk about that game, the first game. We'll talk about the second one and a couple of notes about that first and second game. Some things that we found really interesting and some things that we found really cool. So stay tuned.
It was weird. Like, when we seen the games that we were gonna have, and we both called Chicago, and Chicago were the favorite over the Sparks going in. Um, and I didn't think it'd be quite this easy, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the Chicago Sky, but we have blown them out
Yeah.
twice now, like, in those 2 games, which makes it very easy going into the next round because we get a bit of extra rest hopefully as well.
Oh, yeah. Definitely so. I mean, I think other teams right now, I think a couple other contenders are still 2-0, right? I want to say the Liberty, maybe, or they're going into their second game if they haven't already played.
Yeah, they're going Tuesday.
Okay. So, I mean, right now we're done, until the next round. So we're kind of just watching to see what's going on. And I think that'll be good. Game one was interesting, right? Like we won 87-59. And at no point were we struggling, I feel like. Chelsea led the team with 20 points. Jackie had 18. Kelsey had 16. Asia had 14. Alicia Clark had 13. Like we had five players that had like double the number. Like you're we're just starting, right? I mean, is this playoff mode for us? I mean, we always said we have a playoff mode, right? And I think this will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think we've kind of struggled since Candace went down and went out with her injury, and we've had kind of players in and out, and I think you look at the starting five, you still got four all stars on that starting five,
Oh yeah.
and then you still look at Alicia Clark coming off the bench. So I think this is playoff mode,
Yeah.
and I like. I sometimes think that because the playoffs are so long, and I go this in my head for most major sports other than the NFL because it's kind of a one and done kind of
Yeah.
deal in the playoffs. I always feel like, see if you can get your first round done and out of the way, just
Yeah.
sweep the series, it kind of sets you up for the rest because you get that probably extra couple of days rest. Because I think a best case scenario, like we're done for a week. Everyone gets a week's rest, and I think that's important.
We always talk about it too. We saw where we struggled this season was when we were playing back to back games and, we didn't have a lot of rest. But now, speaking about Candace, as you said earlier, I was online earlier this week on social media and I even saw a photo with Candace like in a huddle. I don't know if it was old, recent, or new, but I want to say it was new. And she was in the huddle with the team, but she still had her boot on. So I think that was interesting to see. I mean, will we get to see her at any point during during this playoff mode? I think we all have wishful thinking. We all want her to be there, but we do have to say, the Aces played in front of the largest playoff crowd since the franchise moved to Las Vegas. And their fans must be ecstatic, right? To have they won it last year, to have a chance to possibly win it again this year, that'd be awesome. I mean, the city of Las Vegas already celebrating, probably still celebrating the Golden Knights, right? They just haven't stopped celebrating. Aces won, Golden Knights, maybe now again. They're kind of in football season and they're probably not celebrating the Raiders, but let's see, right? Let's see before everybody comes against me. I think it'll be a good experience, right, to see the fans all come together and the fact that they're still coming together and supporting women's sports. I think that's just amazing to see.
I think the Candace thing, there's been a few things because I sent you a poster, and it was a
Yeah.
poster that the Las Vegas Aces put out as like a promotion for making it to the playoffs, come buy tickets, that kind of deal. Candace Parker is on that poster, and I was kind of like, are they expecting her to be back during these playoffs? Because all that we know is she's out indefinitely.
Yeah.
Indefinitely could mean tomorrow. Like, there's no time scale for her coming back. She was at tonight's game. She was sitting behind the bench tonight with a Love and Basketball t-shirt on, which I threw me back to my teenage years. So I was like, "Wow, Love and Basketball." So Candice was there,
Oh, yeah.
and that was nice to see, because and I've always said this about women's sports in particular. If a man is injured and there's no chance he's playing, he tends not to be around. However, what I've noticed with women's basketball specifically, and actually women's soccer as well in the States, is that you will see those players on camera at some point
Yeah.
because they're going to be there. I remember when I think it was Elena Deladon was out for the Mystics, and she was gonna be out for like 2 months. She was there every. I don't know if it was every game, but she was definitely there the majority of the time. And that's one thing that I love about the leaders on these teams in the WNBA, that they
Mhm.
show up for their teams and they will sit and support their teams in the background, but they're still. I think it's a good feeling when you get that. And I know from being injured a lot when I was a kid, I used to dislocate my knee all the time, and, like, there was one game I was really annoyed I couldn't go to because it was in a little island up in the north of Scotland, so you had to get, like, a ferry, and you had to get, like, 12 I think it was like an 8-hour ferry ride, all this kinda stuff, and I was like, I wanna go, but, like, I don't wanna travel with my knee, like, that bad." It wasn't like it was a 40-minute drive down the road. It was like a 5-hour drive, like 4 hours in a ferry. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a miss." And, I'm glad I did because there was no hotels on the island, so you had to sleep in a gym hall that you were gonna play in the next day. It was winter, so it was cold in that gym. They didn't put the heating on during the night or in the morning, so when everyone woke up in the morning, they all felt awful. So I was quite glad I didn't make that trip. But generally, like, I loved to at least be there supporting the guys that were gonna be playing. So it's one thing that I've noted about the WNBA specifically, that we do see a lot of the players, if they are injured, they will still be there supporting the team, and I think that's important.
Oh, 100%, especially for team morale itself, right? You have a player who's on the team and somebody who, unfortunately they're injured, right? They can't control that. They can't control their recovery process. Sometimes it takes longer than they expect. I mean, nobody expected Aaron Rodgers to get injured within the first 75 seconds of the game. Like, within the first few moments of the game, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, when it comes to women's sports, I feel like there is a lot more team morale there, and you will see, women's basketball players or women's athletes in general being there wanting to support their teammates. They want to be at the game, and I think that's really important too, especially it shows that like no matter what, they still want to show that they are part of a team, that they're not just because they're injured that they're not just going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to go hang out at home and do my own thing." No, they want to show up and they're going to be there in any way they can.
There's a really good example of that right now. Shohei Ohtani, who plays for the Angels, apparently injured,
Cleared
has
out his
emptied
locker.
cleared his locker out and has buggered off to Japan. Like, he's just gone. And, there's rumors that he'll get Tommy John or whatever it might be. So like everyone was because he's free agent this year apparently. So like every team in Major League
Oh,
Baseball's
yeah,
after him.
yeah.
But now because of his injury, everyone's like, oh well, maybe we don't want to touch him after all. So he may still be an Angel next year, which is going to be awkward if he has to walk into that locker room and put his stuff back in his
He's gotta
locker.
bring his stuff back in, like, a little box, like, he's just gotta, like, go, "Be alright, let me
Yeah.
put the picture back."
It's like when you watch those kind of movies and someone gets fired. I always remember Bruce Almighty for this, when he gets fired at the beginning and he's got his like box of stuff with his pictures and like all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. I can just imagine Otani walking out and he's got his little box. Just a couple of baseballs in it and stuff, a couple of jerseys.
he's like,
But yeah,
"Alright, I'll
it's
put this back. I guess I'm
I'm,
back
I'm,
here, like, I'll put it back."
yeah, I guess I'm coming back. Um, let's move on to game 2. Game 2 literally just finished, like, what, 10, 15 minutes ago, and it it was an exceptionally strong performance from Asia Wilson. She broke a record tonight. She broke and it was makes it even more fun, it's Becky Hammond's scoring record. She broke that. She scored 38 points tonight. I think the record was 33. So she actually killed the record. To be honest, this is a franchise record, not a league record, but well done to Asia for that. But there was a point in this game where, the Aces are up by 28, and all of a sudden they're only up by 9 because Chicago in the fourth quarter, they Kayla Copper, jeez, she just came right out. Evans as well. And you know how we've been talking all season about we don't see much of the bench getting on the floor. It did look like there was a little bit of tiredness had
Oh, yeah.
had kind of kicked in that beginning of that fourth quarter. But at the same time, Chicago just like leapt out and they just put points on the board. Asia Wilson goes down. She gets hit in the eye.
Oh, no.
And yeah, I mean, even at the end of the broadcast, she didn't come back onto the floor. But when she went out, something changed. And it's like Kelsey suddenly came alive. Chelsea suddenly came alive. Um, Ed Young hit a three. Chelsea hit a three. And you're like, oh, hang on. Uh, are we getting back in this now? And suddenly the lead was at 20 again.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, oh, that's a bit more
Okay.
comfortable. But it was like, I mean, we're talking about a 10-minute quarter. You had a swing down to 9 and then back up to 20, and then in the end, it ended up 32. But 22. But I was like, this, it, I don't know if it was just a blip or what it was, but definitely when Asia went out, there
Yeah.
was definitely right. Let's make sure we just stuff this game. Make sure Asia's all right.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, especially like with what you just said about Asia. Like, she's having the time of her, like the game, she's having an amazing game. And her teammates were kind of like, "Oh, she's out right now. Like, let's continue to focus on what we can do and make sure we end this and not let them think that they're gonna win. Because if they have to go into another game, I think they'd also don't want to risk like injury more, right? Like, let's get this done as quick as we can so that way we're not risking as much.
Ah, for sure. And I think you could definitely see that. I mean, it was coming towards the end of the game, and it was an accident. It wasn't like there was anything intentional or anything like that. So, but I think the game itself, first three quarters were pretty comfortable.
Yeah,
There wasn't any kind of danger, but that fourth quarter, that was a worry for me because Chicago just jumped out the gate. Now, if we look ahead and we look at potentially playing Dallas, Dallas were behind in their opening game and they jumped out and kind of came back. So it does kind of worry me that if we do have a blip against a team like Dallas, Dallas have a lot more weapons on that team
oh
that
yeah,
they could actually, you know, say it's a 20-point lead that the Aces have, and then all of a sudden, that lead starts to dwindle. But I think the difference being because they have a more talented team than Chicago and great pieces that they could actually kind of jump out to a win.
100%. We've seen it with Dallas already that they've kind of been a little bit of a shock to us. They've taken time where we've been like, all right, like we're gonna win this game. It's Dallas, and then they've shocked us. And I think, it's going to be the contenders that we're not expecting at all to really take momentum and go for it. I mean, we knew with Chicago we probably were going to win. We had an idea from playing them this season. We knew what to expect. But Dallas is going to be a tough one. I don't think it's going to be as easy as we think it's going to be. I really think it's going to be a tighter like game than we're really even thinking.
I think it will be. I mean, in the first quarter, they were down 36-21, and that's quite a big deficit for a team like Dallas who are on the rise. Atlanta are on the rise as well, let's be honest. Like, Atlanta have had a cracking season this year, but Sabally hit 32 points. Ogunbowale scored 24. So there's 2 big threats, and that's not even including McCown, Howard, like, even the likes of Dangerfield and stuff coming off the bench, like, they have a lot of weapons, and Brown as well. I'd like to see her play more. I don't think she plays enough, but, you know, I'd like to also see her stay on the bench so she doesn't come on, at the same time as she's playing us. But Dallas have a good team. They have a really good coach,
Yeah.
Latricia Tranwell, who is I think she's outstanding. I advocated for her to get the head coach's job at Sparks. When Derek Fisher left, she didn't get it, which I was disappointed in. But obviously in Dallas, they were like, "Oh, they didn't go after her, so we'll just bring her here," which was awesome. And I'm really glad that she got a head coaching spot because I think she deserved one. But going into the potentially going into Dallas, we do have home court, which is awesome. Very much needed, and but it is a dangerous, dangerous team that we'll be going up against, and I think there's if you look at both sides of the bracket, the 2 danger teams for me, one was Dallas and the other one being Connecticut.
Yeah, I feel that. I think for me, the biggest thing, our biggest threat is going to be New York eventually, right? Like, how many times have we lost to them? And, how many times have we played them this season in general? Like, I think this was a team that we played what felt like so many times. I just felt like every other game we were playing was New York. And I was like, do we not play any other teams? But obviously we do. Um, honestly, Connecticut is going to be like we talked about. They're a contender that we're not even really mentioning, but they're there. They're up there and they're going to do well. I think it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. You know, if this was like a March Madness bracket, this definitely like I think we could name a couple of them, but do we have the final winner? I think it's not going to be anybody we really expect.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough this year, and to be fair, this is one reason that I've loved the WNBA for, like, the last 5, 6 years, is because although you have teams that you think, "Oh, they'll win the championship," it doesn't always work out that way.
No.
And I think that's what makes the WNBA so unique because I think sometimes like you go into an NBA season, you pretty much know who's going to be in the finals, and it pretty much pans out that way. The NFL, given an injury, Aaron Rodgers, you pretty much guess who's going to make it. But yeah, I think this year's everyone at the beginning of the season, I think apart from us, and I say us, including the Liberty and including Michelle on the WNBA podcast. I think we all thought, there is Dallas there. There is Atlanta there who are coming up. There is Connecticut that everyone forgets about because they're the small market team. They're next to New York, and everyone just forgets that they're there. And although I don't think, although the Lynx did beat them tonight, so I don't know. The Lynx obviously remembered that they were there. So I'm happy right now though because we won. We've
Oh
got
yeah.
some rest. Do I hope that Atlanta win on Tuesday? Absolutely, because if Atlanta win on Tuesday, then there's another game, and then like you're really looking at next weekend, yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
The Like that's their third game, so you go on beyond that, and it's Sunday. So potentially we get full 7 days off
Yeah.
if that goes. So I think it's I think it's a great series so far
Oh yeah.
for us. And I think across the WNBA as a whole, I think the you can tell it's the playoffs. Like the intensity level has definitely risen.
Mhm.
And like you said right at the beginning, right at the top, like this is what we're getting from the Aces right now.
Yeah.
But I don't. I still think they probably have another gear.
Yeah, I think this was like they were warming up, right? We've seen what they can do this season, but we know playoff mode for the Aces. We know how it goes. Um, do I think that they went their hardest with Chicago? No, they don't think they needed to, right? Like They knew what to expect with them, and this wasn't a team that they were like, we needed to really try as hard with. So they knew what they could do and they knew what they were going to do. And they did it. And I think right now, they're warming up because they know the next few rounds are not going to be easy. So they know going into this next, they have to work a little harder, which I think will be good that we have all this time to kind of, you know, get study what we need to do and figure out what's going to go into it.
Especially with Asia taking that knock tonight. We don't know the extent of the injury. Her eye did look pretty red raw when she was talking to Holly Rowe after the game. Again, now I know this is one of my pet hates, right? All year we get a broadcast crew that is local, and then as soon as it hits playoffs, we get ESPN rollerballing in, and I don't think that was the right time to be interviewing Asia Wilson. Like, Asia
No.
Wilson's just taken a knock. Yes, she broke Becky's record and you want to talk to her, but like, let her go into the locker room. Let her go and get kind of seen because she didn't go to the locker room. She stayed on the bench and kind of got attention there. But I was kind of like, no, like, let's go get her seen, sort of fanning about
Mm,
doing interviews. Because I think it was if it was the local broadcast crew, I don't think they would have even bothered. I think they would have just said, "Let's get someone else. Let's get Kelsey or Chelsea, someone who made it
yeah.
one of the big shots that kind of started to turn the game back around."
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
b yeah, so just a pet hate of mine. We see it in most professional sports. Like, as soon as it comes playoff time, like the big national broadcasters, ESPN, and all the rest of it
Oh,
come
yeah.
in and take over. It's one of my pet hates. I prefer to see the local people do the local games. It's always been my thing, and because I think because your local people, they're biased, and they're biased to your team, and that's why you wanna watch them. Whereas
Yeah.
when you watch ESPN, they, well, sometimes can't even pronounce the names of the players properly. So, like, just saying, like, can we, I know there's probably a lot of money involved, and that's why ESPN show those games, but why not let the local people at least do, like, the first couple of rounds, and then you bring in your national people? I don't know. I'm probably gonna get sued from ESPN for saying that, but hey.
Well, we don't know what's gonna happen, but, we do know right now, like you said, we're waiting to see who we're gonna play next, so that'll be interesting, we'll keep forward to that. Thankfully, we don't have a game 3. Thankfully, we don't have to go to Chicago now, so we're definitely taking that all in stride.
Yeah, thankfully, no game 3, no travel. I think that's
No.
important, no travel, which means we get to stay home. We've got home court against whoever we get next anyway, whether it be Atlanta or Dallas. So, yeah, I think for this week, I think we're on a high for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It might be a sugar high right now, but we're on a high, and we will be back later this week,
Oh, yeah.
and we can properly understand who we're going to be playing in the next round on Sunday,
Yep.
and we can. I think there's some awards coming up. There's already been some awards awarded out by the
Yep.
WNBA. So we will look forward to some more awards. Hopefully, some come our way. I know Brianna Stewart picked up the AP Player of the Year award by one vote, which, that's a stinger. That's definitely a stinger. But we look forward to having those conversations next week. So do join us next week. You can always check out Across the Pond WNBA and Across the Pond Liberty if you are wanting to see what the enemy are up to. And we will be back very soon next week.
Stay tuned.